Hey everyone, welcome back to CryptoCache. Thank you so much for joining me here today. We're going to take another look at KuCoin. And before we do, quick peek at Bitcoin. It hasn't done much apparently in the last 24 hours, but I just like to kind of note that we are still stuck under 60,000 as a potential resistance, and 58,000 seems to be holding as a support. The one-day candlestick closed right at that line or above in the last 2 days. So all good things there. We really just got to ultimately wait for tomorrow and or Tuesday to kind of see how the market is treating Bitcoin and what the plan is moving forward. We still can't expect it just to shoot straight to the moon right away, but I do think that we're going to start to see some momentum perhaps early in the week, and it could go one way or the other. Honestly, it could go right down to 52,000, or it could do the inverse, of course, and increase. There's no real indication here that it's going to just turn right around or drop tomorrow, right? So if we get some sideways action all week, that'd be perfectly fine. That'd give me enough confidence to want to get back in the market and kind of get some signals out. But for right now, we're kind of good right where we're at here for Bitcoin. Not in bad shape at all, right? All right, so just before we look at KuCoin, if you're new to the channel, not a financial advisor, this is for educational purposes only, of course, but just know I love teaching and I like helping people become better traders. So if you like what you learn here today, perhaps consider becoming a patron. I have a trading community, and obviously the whole point of that is to share my trades with my members so you can kind of learn and grow as a more independent trader, right? So check that out in your own time, of course, really awesome. I share every single trade that I take with my members, send them out through signals through Telegram, which is quite awesome. Now, looking at the simple moving averages, nothing to note there. The one-day chart pretty much isn't going to tell us too much right now, except for the fact that it's extremely overextended or right at that state of extension, right? I think it was we were at an 8 yesterday when I looked at this last, so that would imply that we're probably at a 9 for TD sequential, and there you go. You can go ahead and see that. So just to clarify, if you look in the past, again, history has a tendency of repeating itself, right? If you look back here at KuCoin, when it went from a 1 to a 9, right, it jumped up to about 40 cents. Everyone was pretty ecstatic. We got basically a 2x from 20 to 40. It went sideways for some time, right? If we look at this, retrace, increase, retrace, it continued to work itself into a wedge pattern and then broke out to the upside, okay? Now, we have a similar pattern forming right now, not necessarily a wedge, but more so the simple fact that we have a 1 through a 9, and when it hit a 9 last time, it retraced and consolidated within this type of channel here, okay? So I would not be surprised if we see about 58 cents in the fairly near future. So, me personally, I'm going to consider taking some profits here right around 67, 70 cents, just based on the sheer fact that it shouldn't go much higher in this run based on this metric alone, right? Now, we don't just make our decisions based on one thing, of course, but that is a pretty strong indication, especially on the one-day chart. We shouldn't expect it to continue tremendously further. Granted, there are some times where it continues, past the 9, and we see maybe, 2 or 3 extra little candlesticks. But for that matter, I just think that it appears to be very overextended on the one-day chart. Let's look at the 4-hour, see what that's telling us as well. All right, first of all, moving averages are trailing behind, but you can see the 50 working as a pretty strong support level. So that's going to continue to work its way up. We'll see how that affects the price eventually soon. The RSI is up over 70 now, and not to say this is cause for concern because you can be over 70 for some time and still be all right. But typically that's an indication of, just paying attention to your investment and seeing if you might want to consider trimming some profits eventually or waiting for the RSI to come back down. I actually have an RSI video that helps explain that, because when the RSI starts coming back down, that's usually the best case in which you notice that you'll get the most profit instead of when it just peaks above. So I'm not saying to sell right now because usually when it just jumped right over 70, that's not a good indication of a sell signal, but it does imply that it's oversold and that we want to start paying attention and consider trimming our position soon if the price starts coming back down. Okay, so there's that. Also, taking a look here at the MACD convergence, we had a bounce, which is pretty standard for a scenario like this. But as you can kind of see too, we do have this, it's kind of almost a cup and handle pattern, but we can see that better on the 1-hour chart. But you can see how the price just kind of came up to the resistance level, right? Come down, bounced, tried again, and then it took off. Now, commonly when you break a resistance level, it'll come down and test the support level soon. It hasn't done that yet, but it very well could and should, just based on the fact that it's overextended, okay? So just keep that in mind. This is showing a lot of signs that it's, I wouldn't say reaching its peak, but definitely getting close, okay? So we just want to pay attention and consider taking some profit if you get a chance. But either way you look at it, that's my recommendation just in general. Let's look at the 1-hour chart and see what the TD sequential is telling us. We can see we're well past the 9, right? So we got 9 straight hours of bullish momentum, the last 9 hours. and then we've got an extra 3 hours on top of that. So typically when you have a 9 on TD sequential, it's supposed to consolidate or retrace. All right. We haven't seen either of those two scenarios yet. It just keeps going higher. So that being said, you want to be cautious and be aware of the fact that it could turn around. And I would say the most likely candidate is the most recent high, right? So this was the all-time high in this area here. This would most likely be the place in which the price will come down and rest. Okay. So I'd expect somewhere around the range of 58 cents. So if you're going to consider dollar cost averaging or adding to your position, say you're like, oh, darn it, I missed my entry, then, you know, add your position closer to 58 cents. That would probably be a good consideration. So just bear in mind that is a likely candidate for the next available support level. And as far as major resistance levels, of course, you know, I can redraw this Fibonacci retracement line soon. That's still valid though, of course, because we haven't quite hit the top yet. But I would say, again, like I'd mentioned before, 70 cents is probably the most likely resistance level here coming up. And then, of course, we're looking at about 75 upwards of 86 cents as a potential high. I think 70 cents is probably the more realistic stopping point, and then it should come back down to about 58. It's just my, again, it's my my consideration. You can do what you want, honestly, but I do personally feel like this is a bit on the overextended side, and we shouldn't expect to see a tremendous amount more growth from KuCoin, just based on the sheer fact that it's pretty much every single time frame is telling us it's overextended, it's overbought, and it has to come back down eventually. And just keep in mind too, if it shoots straight up to 86 cents today, it's all well and good if you take some profit. Make sure you take profit close to that target if it were to. However, if it goes to 86 cents today, you can guarantee it's going to come crashing back down. There's just no other way around it. We are likely well outside the standard deviation lines for this price right now. And as you can see, it's getting real close. So like, it's just pushing the limit essentially. So all in all, very good shape for KuCoin. Will it go much higher? Yes, it could, and it probably will. But how much longer can it continue this? It needs to correct itself soon, or we're going to have a catastrophic failure, right? So I would say 58 cents, right around 58, 59 is a strong support level, and we should see 70 or 76 cents work as a pretty strong resistance soon, and it'll probably stay within this channel for a little while. We'll take another look at it again, obviously maybe later today, perhaps even earlier tomorrow. Give it time to kind of cool off, but you know, don't be ashamed to take some profits at this point, unless you plan to hold KuCoin for a very, very long time. There's nothing wrong with either. Yeah, and if you're just going to consider, you know, adding to your position, go ahead and just, you know, dollar cost average your way up, or even on your way down. Both ways work just fine if this is something you're going to want to, you know, invest in long term, because it definitely has potential to go much higher than it's at right now. But short term, it's definitely maxed out as well, if that makes any sense. So hopefully you will find benefit here today, of course. If you would like to consider joining my Patreon community, check that out, of course, in your own time. I share trades with every single member and, of course, help them grow and learn to become better traders. It's a really awesome experience. Everyone's having a good time. Check that out, of course, before month end, just based on the sheer fact that rates are increasing due to the fact there's a pretty large demand at this point. So we're going to probably cap off the amount of members as well here soon. So I hope to see you there. If not, that's okay. Continue to learn as much as you can from these videos. And I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. Thanks so much for your time. We'll see you soon.